What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint edition of the Smark Smack Talk podcast. This is the AEW Dynasty 2025 Pay-Per-Viewpoint post show. I am your host, as always, Tony Mango, and I will, of course, be breaking down what happened at this pay-per-view, my thoughts on everything that happened, my projections into what I think the future has in store for All Elite Wrestling and everything else along those lines. So I invite you to do the same, whether you are listening live or you're listening after the fact. If you are live, then take advantage of the super chats and make sure that I see anything that you put in the live chat. We also have some goals open. If we get some five super chats in the 15-minute or so window, that we'll do an extra episode of something this month. And if you're listening after this fact, or you're listening to us on like the audio only versions of this or something along those lines, there's plenty of different ways for you to voice your opinions. If you're on YouTube, make sure that you hit the like button as well as leave a comment. Make sure that you share this, pass this along, make sure that you subscribe, all that good stuff. If you want to help support us on the different platforms that we have, if you're on YouTube, you have the thanks button, and you also can click on the join button. That'll give you access to the same stuff as the Patreon, patreon.com/smarkoutmoment. All that stuff is the same, Darkcast tier, Pick Your Poison tier, etc. And it's something, again, that we are thinking about doing in the future when it comes to, if we can figure it out too, because I'm still trying to figure a lot of this stuff out with like redoing the setup of how we even record this podcast. But when it comes to the Discord server, which I should probably put it up on the screen so people could see. This is our Discord server. I was thinking the other day about getting some kind of a custom link, and then I found out that you have to pay for Nitro, I think, for that. And Nitro does not seem like it has a whole bunch of other things that are really worth the money, so I'm probably not going to do that. So I'm probably just going to keep this discord.gg/ and then, a bunch of string of numbers and letters and all. In any fashion, we're doing way more on Discord going forward. And assuming that I can continue to have everything continue to work with the setup that I'm, screwing around with now, that is probably how we are going to be recording the podcast actually going forward instead of on Skype. So a possible tier that might be added to the YouTube channel membership and to the Patreon going forward might end up being an option for people to join the podcast in, some discussions, whether it's like the Pay-Per-Viewpoint post shows like we're doing now. If you are, let's say, I haven't put it up yet because I still have to test things out for it, but let's say if it's the $20 tier, then you would get access to the Darkcasts throughout the month because that's underneath it. And then you would be able to have the option of joining and having like a push to talk type of a thing or something. Again, this is in the very early stages. I still have not tested out to see whether or not even Callum's Discord is working correctly when it comes to this. So keep in mind, though, if you are interested in that stuff, if you do want to help us out, those are some great methods to do so. Also, if you want to pick up merchandise, you can through Redbubble and TeePublic. And, just the fact that you're listening to this, the fact that you share it, you like it, you subscribe, those are completely free options. Those help out quite a bit as well. Since I'm promoting things already, I might as well just mention fanboysanonymous.com. If you're interested in the fanboys stuff, then, head on over there and, show that website some support. And now we're going to backtrack. We're going to talk about what actually happened at this pay-per-view, which means that I need to get my notes up from this because I certainly am not going to be able to remember throughout the whole night everything that happened in order, especially because, as per usual, there were some matches that I didn't bother to really pay a whole lot of attention to be perfectly honest. So if you're unfamiliar with my perspective of AEW, it's basically turned into, it's been the same kind of thought process for me for a while now, about like 2 years, where I tend to enjoy the matches for the most part. When I am watching the matches, I tend to like them. Some of them are really great in particular. And the pay-per-views tend to be a series of good to very good, maybe even great matches. And the pay-per-view downtime to it is completely the opposite of WWE, where WWE, I feel like they're not giving you enough and they're having lots of time to just waste time. And I feel exhausted watching a WWE show a lot of the times because I'm like, oh my God, this went on for hours and hours and like nothing's happening. I'm bored. But I also run into situations with the WWE shows where I sometimes, that big gap in between matches, I do something else. And then it kind of feels like instead of watching one really long show, that I watched a series of smaller ones. Sometimes that can actually be a benefit. When AEW pay-per-views come along, I know I'm going to be match, and they're not going to have any time. So that can be exhausting as well. And I know that for this pay-per-view, if I would have paid 100% strict, like deadlocked onto my screen attention to every single match, I'm sure there would have been moments where I would have been like, all right, I'm bored, I'm exhausted of watching wrestling, which I pretty much am every week as it is. And I got to watch LFG after this and write up another article too. So it's like that never ends. Actually more than one article. Oh my God, too many things. But since I didn't do that, that made this easier to digest, I should say. And again, I don't want to say easier to digest in the sense of being like, oh, it's bad pay-per-view, because I don't think that that's the case. And I'm pretty sure that most people would agree. It seems like there's for the most part, positive reactions online. Can't speak for anybody else 100%, but it does seem like people would agree that, match by match, most of the stuff was pretty damn good. And the downsides to it are probably things that, it's not a bad idea that I missed a portion of it here and there. So, yeah, I mean, I can tell you that, like, let's see, one of the matches that I didn't pay tons and tons of attention to, like Kyle Fletcher and Mark Briscoe. Like, I didn't really watch a portion of that match. I was busy doing some other stuff at the time. And in the grand scheme, those were more important. And I don't feel like if I missed those portions of that match, that it would have been, like, it seems like it was good. And the parts that I did see, I enjoyed. But I don't feel like I need to go back and check them out, because that'll change this from being a, 3.5 star. I don't do the star ratings, but let's just say in theory that it would change it from like a 3.5 star to a 4 star. I don't think that that's the case. If I'm wrong throughout this whole thing, let me know. But I think overall I got the better idea of the quality of most of these things. And everybody's opinion could be different too. So let me just check some of the stuff in the chat that's going on right now. Alex said, why? And this guy 123. Thanks for joining us. I didn't know this was today. I keep track of the pay-per-views. Just a little bit of insight of, the way that my organization is ridiculous. I keep track of pay-per-views through the page of the year on smark@moment.com. So if you go to like the 2025 AEW pay-per-view schedule, that page and the WWE page. And there's also the running whatever pay-per-view thing, just the pay-per-view schedule thing, which I change every year. It doesn't say 2025 on it. It says it on the thing, but it's not in the URL. So each pay-per-view for WWE and for AEW has two things on those two things. Then I have the page predicting the pay-per-view, the page with the results of the pay-per-view, two things for the podcast. I've got a thing with the like e-wrestling news coverage that I do and the Ring Report. So multiple prediction and results things on that. I've got something in a Word document that I keep track of things for, like the podcast schedule and all. I've got something on Evernote that I use all the time, and I have a Google Calendar alert for like every pay-per-view. Throughout all of that, I still every once in a while find myself going, crap, that's today. I forgot about that. So don't think that that's not something that happens to even me too. Guy123 says this company's dumb. Didn't watch him, but Moxley retaining is dumb. Read some word from XOI here. After results, I would like to ask some questions. I'm watching a wrestling show. I'm wondering what your experience of it so far. Doesn't seem this leads anywhere. Really building to the Moxley title loss, probably to Ospreay at all in Texas is what I'm seeing. I don't really like most of the results. And then Guy123 saying Moxley retaining is so tone deaf that people are hating this ending. We'll come back around to that. So we're going to go, numerically. Numerically, that's not, in sequential order, I should say. So the 0 hour was something I didn't pay any attention to. I don't watch Collision, so I didn't know if they announced anything last night. But today, in the middle of the afternoon, I was double checking to make sure I had things correct, which, by the way, I thought that Hangman Adam Page was going to face the wild card on this pay-per-view. So everything that I wrote ahead of time had predictions for that. And somebody had just put that up on Wikipedia, and I didn't bother to do my due diligence and check it out. So I would have known that ahead of time and saved myself some time, but whatever. That was actually something I was looking forward to. I was like, we're going to find out who the wild card is. That should be fun. We didn't have that match. So the 0 hour matches weren't something that I was aware of until around like 4 o'clock or so. The pay-per-view starts around 6:30. So I look at that and I see, all right, Max Caster open challenge. And then there's this completely pointless seeming trios match. I don't really need to watch any of these two things. So I was, doing dinner around that time. But Nick Wayne and CRU, or Crew, Action Andretti and Leo Rush beat AR Fox and Top Flight in a match that I didn't bother to watch anything about. I don't think I missed anything. Again, if I'm wrong, let me know. And then Max Caster had his open challenge and was answered by Anthony Bowens, actually, with some new theme music. So I did see the end of that. Bowens with a stiff shot beats Max Caster, so it's cool to see Anthony Bowens back. It's cool to see him getting that presentation bump and everything. I like that. I thought that was good. First match of the show itself, like properly the show itself, was the Will Ospreay and Kevin Knight match. This is a quarterfinals match for the Owen Hart Foundation tournament. And to nobody's surprise and everybody else's, continuation as well, had Will Ospreay winning this match. I figured it was pretty obvious, and then he does. But it was a good match. Kevin Knight has a really good showing back and forth, and proved himself to be a viable contender in that fashion. So I like how that pulled off. I'm Josh says, nope, didn't miss anything. Ospreay and Knight, good match, solid way to start off the show. And then there was the Hurt Syndicate retaining the AEW World Tag Team Championship over the Learning Trees, Big Bill and Bryan Keith. And I figured at some point in this match that MJF would come out, he would do something. It's, maybe it's to prove himself, and he, helps hold somebody's leg down when the referee is not paying attention, or, something along those lines. I did not think that there was much of a chance that the Hurt Syndicate would lose their championships by proxy of like MJF trying to help out and screwing them over accidentally. So I was just ready for the Hurt Syndicate to retain. And the way that they did this with MJF, and I particularly love, MJF's in the crowd and he just punches Big Bill, and then Lashley, I believe, spears him afterwards. Spears Big Bill, I should say, not MJF. And then realizes that MJF is in the crowd and he did that. So I don't really love that. I think that that's like, maybe I wouldn't have been able to think of anything better. Maybe I would. I don't know. I'll give myself the leeway of saying it's a possibility, but at the same time be realistic and say, maybe I wouldn't have. Maybe this would have been the best idea I would have had to. But the Hurt Syndicate retain, and this story that I don't really like about MJF and MVP and Bobby Lashley and all, I guess it's just going to continue with pretty much the same thing that it's been for like the past 3 weeks. How bad was the Jericho match? Didn't watch, or was it good? I'll let you know about that. A couple more matches before we get into that, though. We had the other Owen Hart Cup. Not the other one. There was 2 more. The women's Owen Hart Cup match. Mercedes Moné beats Julia Hart. They had a good contest. Somebody, I forget who, in the Twitter / Facebook or whatever verse, somehow I came across the opinion where somebody said, now Julia is also a person that had their best match with Mercedes. I can't personally tell you a better match that Julia Hart had off the top of my head, because I'm not able to do that as well as a lot of other people are. I kind of like defrag my wrestling in my brain at least like once a week, where I'm just like, I need to forget some of these details. And a lot of people they have way better memories from that. I'm sure like Robin Callum would be like, the best match that Julia had was the one that happened at, the 2021 Revolution or something. I don't know. It's probably not even a match. But I did enjoy the match. I've said over and over again that I am not as impressed with Mercedes and AEW as I'm supposed to be. But, I mean, that happens in WWE too. Look at Charlotte Flair and Tiffany Stratton. That was a terrible, terrible segment on Friday Night SmackDown, by the way. I almost fell asleep. The only reason I didn't fall asleep in that segment was because my wife was like, oh my God, I can't stand these two yapping and with their annoying voices. And I laughed about that. So Mercedes goes on. She advances to the semifinals. She's going to face the winner of Athena and Harley Cameron, aka she's going to fight Athena. Meanwhile, the Will Ospreay and Kevin Knight match, that of course sets up the winner, Will Ospreay, going up against Brody King or Konosuke Takeshita. I'm assuming it's Takeshita. And I'll just skip forward a little bit. Kyle Fletcher beat Mark Briscoe, and he is the other one that ended up moving on and past the quarterfinals. So Fletcher is going to go up against, Hangman and the wild card. Still don't know anything about the wild card. I'm still kind of assuming that it's somebody like a Josh Alexander type, but it could be, I don't know, it could be anybody. Probably no. Why is champion with 4 titles in a tournament so that she could get a 5th title? So that way, when she goes up against Timeless Toni Storm, it'll be, I have my 5 championships all around me. I got my own Hart Cup belt. Doesn't make any sense, but they have a belt for it too. And then that she can try to win the AEW Women's World Championship and then probably win that and have 6 championships. The 4 titles mean nothing already, though. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't even tell you the name of some of them. Like, I think it's like the British open weight women's Rev Pro something. They just want to give her belt. They want to do the Ultimo Dragon thing or the Kurt Angle thing, where it's just like the belt collector gimmick, and Kenny Omega did it. Austin Aries did it too, right? Did anybody ever do that in WWE? Like the closest thing be like the 2-man power trip or something, which I wasn't watching during that era. I don't know. Maybe that happened in WWE and I can't remember. Let me read the chat again a little bit. George Diaz says, I think it's Darby Allin as the men's wild card. It could very well be. He's somebody that would make a lot of sense because at some point he's got to come back and he's got to fight Moxley. I still think he's the guy that beats Moxley, but that could happen at all in Texas or could happen after the fact. I don't really know what's happening with the Mount Everest stuff with him. So that, one way or another, that could get in the way, or it could be like, well, let's wait until you come back from that or something. I don't know. So yeah, Fletcher beats Briscoe, and match was what it was. Good match from what I saw. The trios championships were on the line. Death Riders, Claudio Castagnoli, Pac, and Wheeler Yuta going up against another Wheeler, Cash Wheeler, Dax Harwood, and Cope. Keep calling him that. Edge. Adam Copeland, and the whole rated FTR thing, which of course was doomed to fall apart, and that is exactly what happened here. They lost the shot to win the trios titles, and then after the match, Dax Harwood pile drives Cope, and Wheeler goes along with it, and they give him a shatter machine. They do the concerto. So I assume that Cope is being written off television for at least a little bit. Like he's going to miss a few episodes of Dynamite and come back a little bit later, or he might just be missing a little while longer. Maybe this was their means for him to rest up another injury or something. I don't know. I don't know anything about any kind of news coming out about that. So something to keep an eye on. But rated off TR split regardless. So kind of saw that coming. Since that just set up a thing that was pretty predictable, this didn't really do too much for me, to be honest. Darby Allin beating Jon Moxley is weird. Reading a comment from XOY. Seems forced and only to please fans. They'll do a hardcore match and Darby will throw Moxley into a fire. That's kind of what I'm anticipating. It's some kind of how much punishment can Darby Allin get put through kind of thing. So backtracking after the whole ambulance spot, stretcher spot, I should say more so than ambulance. Timeless Toni Storm retains the AEW Women's World Championship over Megan Bayne in a match that was solid enough, but I actually skipped a portion of because I just am not particularly fond of the style of matches that Toni Storm tends to put on recently in the women's division in general when it comes to AEW. But I assumed that Megan Bayne was going to be, I keep putting this on a couple other things. Megan Bayne got the 2006 or so John Cena monster opponent build. Like, she showed up, she very quickly started amassing wins, and it's like, oh my God, big threat to Toni Storm, yet she's obviously going to retain. So she obviously did. They did that with an inside cradle, so it's just like she squeaked by and she used an old school move kind of a thing, which I can appreciate that. But I didn't really care too much to really watch the match, so yeah, it's not like I could do a star rating if I even wanted to, which I'm not a fan of those. So that seemed like a positive, but I can't give it 2 thumbs up. Bandito then won the ROH World Championship after losing the match. And this is how they did this whole setup. So it's title for Mask. If Jericho loses, he loses the ROH World Championship. If Bandito loses, he has to be unmasked. And of course, that's a big no-no in luchador culture. It's what happened to Gravity, his brother, at the last pay-per-view when Jericho ripped off his mask and humiliated him. So the whole setup here, I thought, it's a good way of doing that. And I was really surprised to hear the bell ring when I was in the other room. And it's like, oh, and still champion. I was like, you got to be kidding me. They're actually going with the unmasking thing? Because I didn't see what happened during the finale part of that. Now, what did happen was Jericho used a distraction. Referee wasn't paying attention, and he took out Floyd, the baseball bat, hit Bandito with it, and hit it behind the steel steps. So he gets the victory, but Bandito's because Gravity came out later, his sister and his mom, who were ringside for the Gravity match at Revolution, they point out to Ref Aubrey Edwards that there's a bat behind there. You just use that. And right as they're saying, there's no instant replay in pro wrestling, the 2 referees talking, it's like, yeah, the match has to be restarted. So, okay, there's an instant replay, and you don't even use that. You just take the person's word for it. So that we're setting up this doesn't happen ever, because it never really does unless you just decide that you want it to happen. It's one of those suspension of disbelief rules in pro wrestling that's beyond stupid, and everybody just kind of goes, let's go with it. Same as how like a referee can like take a kick by accident, but if it's not supposed to be when they get taken out, they're perfectly fine. And then a stiff breeze, they're out for 20 minutes. So right after they go, this is the rule that never happens. Then they go, okay, well that's going to happen, but even more of a suspension of disbelief because we didn't even bother to check the footage. So I thought that was kind of like, all right, well, it's silly and it's stupid, but I kind of like it. So Jericho quickly loses after that. Bandito's the new ROH World Champion, which means that Jericho's title reign, I don't really know what they served the purpose for to have him win this a second time, but whatever. And the whole last title reign that Bandito had, which again, I wasn't following Ring of Honor, so I can't speak to this personally, but he held it for like 150 days and he only vacated the title because he had to, because he was supposed to do a show or something like that, and he got tested positive for COVID. So this was in like 2021 or so. And that is always a bad way to end a championship reign. It's not good to have any championship reign lose, but if you're going to go out, you go out losing and, actually having a match and a feud and a storyline and all. Injuries and things like that, that always sucks. But Bandito wins it again. Now he gets to be the champion again. Maybe have that rest of that title reign that he would have had before. Completely different landscape now, though, because it was like, Jonathan Gresham won next and all, and he's not a part of this at all anymore. So different dynamics. I'm not going to be watching Ring of Honor to care about like a Bandito title reign because I wasn't watching it for the past year anyway. But, next time that there's an ROH pay-per-view, which is, I believe, Death Before Dishonor, happening around the All In time frame, I'm going to, I guess, watch that and then do live coverage of that. So, Okay. Give me a really good opponent that I would be interested in seeing against Bandito, who isn't this match going to be interesting? Like just flip, Bandito wins. Yeah. Can you do more live streams? I like your live streams, specifically you alone, Tony. I can try. The more support, the better. And the more that you guys want this kind of stuff, especially if we get more people on like the, $1 a month tier or something, $1 a month or the $5 a month tier, then the more that I will try to do more live streams and more like video streams and stuff too. Because I'm assuming you mean both, probably, right? If you're saying I don't need to see your ugly face, you just do the live stream and talk, then that's a different story. But I'm not gonna get my feelings hurt. Where did we leave off? That was Bandito. So new champion crowned, and then a new champion crowned in the next match, which was Daniel Garcia defending the TNT title against Adam Cole. And this match was largely revolving around Adam Cole doing a Panama Sunrise and kind of tweaking his ankle and dealing with that for the whole rest of the thing. So solid match. Not my favorite of the night, but good enough. My issue with this is I kind of feel like Adam Cole winning, not to say that it was like deflating, because I don't think that Garcia's reign's been anything worthwhile to really be interested in and be like, oh, I wish he would have kept that going. But it just sort of felt flat to me. I don't know if it was, the Philly crowd or the reaction or just maybe my own personal reaction to it. But I was just like, oh, okay, so Adam Cole's champ now. Like, I don't know, didn't get any kind of like reaction out of me, But we'll see if Cole is better as a mid-card champion in AEW than he was in WWE and NXT, or if that's even just better for AEW in general for him to be in that position, because I haven't really liked what he's done with tag team stuff, the world title feud, but we haven't seen him hold a championship yet. So maybe when he is champion, it might have a little bit of a different feel to it. So we'll see. But Garcia's title reign is over with. So that was a bust, I think, overall. After that, Kenny Omega retains the International Championship over Speedball Mike Bailey and Ricochet. They have a whole, move by move, really good match. This was actually my favorite match of the night. And I could very easily see people being like, I want them to run this back. Like, man, I can't wait to see Kenny Omega versus Ricochet one-on-one. I can't wait to see Kenny Omega versus Speedball in another capacity. I think that is going to be the biggest takeaway from here. That other than what happened after the match, which was Kazuchika Okada comes out and he has the briefest of a stare down with Kenny Omega, because Omega just books it. He's just like, all right, I'm fucking out of here. And I kind of like that they did that instead of doing like the thing where they're really milking it, because we know what this is leading to. They're going to have a match at all in Texas. It's probably going to be to unify those two championships, and it's probably going to end up with an intercontinental title. Or we were joking the other day that the Continational Continational Championship. So damn good match. Now, the main event, Jon Moxley over Swerve Strickland. There you go. That's the result. That hit a point where I was bored. And I just wasn't really feeling the match a whole lot. It got more interesting, though, eventually. A referee takes a bump, and there's a whole back and forth with, like, is Swerve actually going to be able to win? But there's no referee, so he can't get the pinfall and all. Hangman Adam Page comes out, and he had said that he was going to make sure that Swerve never won the championship again. But they had a little backstage thing on Dynamite this past Wednesday where it ended up being that, I forget the exchange exactly, but it was something like, you deserved me burning down your house. And then Swerve said, I know. And then that got Hangman Adam Page to be like, I don't know how to respond to that. And then he just like left. So they're indicating that there might be something going on there. Maybe that feud is going to be over with sooner rather than later. And the ability to have that like denial with this, where he was ready to do a buckshot lariat, and it seemed like he was going to be targeting Swerve, but Moxley was in the ring too. So he could have potentially done that to cost Moxley the championship. He doesn't get an opportunity to because the rest of the Death Riders end up getting involved. And then the Ops comes out, completely forgot that the Ops said that they would be on the pay-per-view. So that's a good means of, bringing back something that I was just like, why are they out? Oh, okay. So they did set that up ahead of time. So they are most likely going to be feuding for the trios titles next, which I hope means that they win those trios titles. And I should put a mental note to change that on my prediction thing. I have that page. I could open it up now. Current champions list in AEW. I'll do that after this podcast. But as they're doing the whole thing they're all fighting with each other and all. The lights go out and the Young Bucks then pop up and they give an EVP trigger to Swerve Strickland. And that's the end of the match. Moxley's able to capitalize. He wins the title back. He retains the title. He doesn't want it back. And that's the end of the pay-per-view. So this is something that's been happening a lot lately, where it seems like a pay-per-view has a really solid group of matches, and then the Moxley match happens. And even though they give you some kind of an angle, it just doesn't feel like that's the big, grand, amazing finale to the pay-per-view. I haven't seen much of the reactions for this to see if people are kind of like, oh my God, the Young Bucks are back. This is so cool. I loved the end of this pay-per-view. Or if they're like, I'm not feeling this thing, but at least the Young Bucks thing's interesting. Or, oh, those guys are back. It could be that kind of reaction. But the whole setup of why they did this, I don't know. Is it just to get back at Swerve because they had a little bit of a feud going before with the whole Elite versus AEW thing? Is it specifically to help Jon Moxley? So I'm a WWE guy more than an AEW guy. The fact that you give me that kind of an angle gives me something more to talk about. I like that. Don't love that the Moxley retain situation means just dragging that on anymore, but I didn't think that Swerve had much of a chance of winning this to begin with. So I didn't go into this with hopes that would end. I just assume whenever Darby Allin is back, that it's when Moxley's going to do that, which could be, I don't know, October for all we know. So let's read a couple little bits now of the chat before wrapping things up. I wish monetarily I could help more, but it's the worst I've ever been in and has been for years. I mean, I totally understand that. It seems like not only is that the same for me, but that it's going to get worse here because we have an idiot running this country. I appreciate the one-on-one talking to spectators. I choose your live stream before any others for that reason. You're good about text responding for on-demand videos, but this is different and special. Huh? Are you annoyed about the decision or indefinite? I'm guessing the latter. So for overall, when it comes to the Moxley thing, I don't like this. I don't think that the Death Rider story is good. I think that they pivoted when they knew that this Elite thing wasn't working out from like injury stuff and with like just the way that, people weren't really loving how that was going and, the Tony Khan angle of the whole thing. I think that they thought they could do another in case of emergency break glass and bring Jon Moxley into the situation, because that keeps happening in AEW. It's like he's the backup plan. If you are screwing something up, put the belt on Moxley and then you'll just figure it out. It's happened Punk twice. It happened with Danielson or whatever. That's across the board. So I think that they're kind of more so just falling on this like, we don't know what else and we feel like we need to have a big angle rather than this actually going anywhere. And it started off with Moxley being like, I'm doing this for these like reasons and you don't understand and all this. And it just quickly turned into, he's just a dick and there is no extra lore to this. It's just, I'm this brawling asshole and my friends are also assholes. So that's just reverting into generic heel territory. And for it to build around the potential of a Darby Allin title win coming in the future and him to not be around for all of this, also makes it just sort of be like, all right, I'm not watching a slow burn of a story. I'm watching a story that started off not particularly great, but with a question mark. And then I'm being told to wait until the question mark gets answered. Think of it this way. I would say overall, if you're going to say like, what genre of movie are you like the most a fan of? It's like kind of more on like the superhero-y, side of things. But of course, Shawshank Redemption is the best movie of all time, as far as I'm concerned. And 2001: A Space Odyssey, and like all these other things. Godfather, my number 2 favorite, best film of all time, I should say. And when it comes to like mystery movies and thriller type movies, I tend to like a story where I can keep guessing throughout the show, or, whatever TV show. Like From is a great example of this. I'm going deeper diving into other stuff to circle back to pro wrestling. From is a TV show, which I'm not going to spoil anything if you haven't seen it, but it has lots of questions and they answer some of them and then they give you new questions and everything. So it's like 3 seasons deep or so. I watched all that, binged it like over the course of a couple weeks, just an episode as much as we could. And I'm engaged in the show the entire time. Every episode, I'm trying to find the little clues. I'm trying to do whatever like that. But if you show me a mystery movie where it's just who's the killer, and throughout the whole rest of the movie, it's just one person by one person getting killed, and you're just waiting to find out who is the last person and the killer out of the group of like 10. Oh, we're down to the final 3. And then you just wait, and then that's the answer. I think that those movies are shit. And I feel like we're in a pro wrestling equivalent of kind of like a slasher film where there's no story. It's just Moxley is a heel on top, and he's going to continue to beat the good babyface top tier talent until the original person just beats him. And then people will go, oh my God, wasn't this a great angle? Wasn't this a great story? And I'm going to go, no, it's not even necessarily a great beginning and an end. But if anything, it would be the beginning and the end. And then 98% of it, the whole meat of it, would be filler. So unless they do something to make me care more about the Moxley story, I'm still just going to be on autopilot. I'm just going to assume he's retaining the title, and I'm not going to be able to get invested with it. I'm more interested in what the Hangman and Swerve thing is. And now I'm interested in the Young Bucks and like, why are they back? But that could easily go, oh, the Young Bucks said we just did it for the sake of it. Haha. And there is no story. Than I am with anything about this Moxley thing. So if Moxley would have lost the championship, I would have been really interested in how that was set up. And I would assume that they would just be abandoning it. And I don't know if that would be better, but I don't know. I don't think it would have been worse. Are they double turning Hangman Page face and Swerve Strickland heel? I think if anything, Page just turns face and Swerve just stays face too. Jon Moxley apparently has creative. This shows maybe he doesn't have great ideas. Let me get some of this real quick. I don't know how much influence he has over that, but it'd be interesting if that was the case. Like, he just has this one idea and he's just like, do that every week. It would be kind of like the Bob Holly story of I got an idea, give me the belt, but then I beat everyone. You guys should talk more about what your wrestling character would be. I don't know if you would have been following back then, because I don't remember when this was taking place, but Peyton had his own little like Twitch series specifically dedicated to 2K whatever it was, 2K17 or something, I don't know, where he had like, create a character thing, and he had a whole thing set up with that. And I sat with him one night and we made the Tony character, which was in all caps, because you have to write it in all caps, Anton, Anton. That's the only real like variation of like Tony that I never really gone by in any fashion. Nobody's ever called me Anton. Like, I'm Anthony, I'm Tony. For some reason, every once in a while I'll come across somebody that'll call me Ant. They'll be like, yo, what's up, Ant? I'm like, I'm not an ant. Like, I that doesn't suit my personality. But people call me Tone. Yo, what's up, Tone? Like that, whatever. And I was always like, all right, well, Anton is the douchiest sounding version of that. And I always wanted to be a heel if I were to do anything in wrestling. So, I see myself vicariously through those like kind of characters sometimes. I'm always rooting for like the jerk of a character, or like, like I'll watch a TV show or a movie or something like that, and it'll be like, that character's a complete asshole. And I'm laughing, and people are like, why do you always like the jerks? So I would definitely be a heel. And the character was essentially just pure pompous asshole. I have a pink dress shirt that Peyton used to make fun of me for, still does. And the character had a pink dress shirt because it was like, oh, this looks obnoxious. And then the instant pyro, like you just walk down the ring and it's constant pyro and all. So that would end up being my character. It would be something like that. I always thought that if I wouldn't ever get into the physicality of pro wrestling, but if I would have gone into the manager side of things with OTW, I'd have called myself Anton, and it would have been kind of like a Damian Sandow-ish sort of character, because I do have a teaching degree, so like I'd kind of get into that a little bit, and it would end up being more I would call myself like A+, would have been like the douchey nickname that I gave myself, to be like, well, everybody else is B-, but I'm an A+, kind of a thing. So that would have been my character on that front too. I wouldn't have done some of the Anton stuff, but what else we got in the chat here? I believe Tony said he wants to do the ticking time bomb idea, maybe a genius villain type character. The ticking time bomb, it wouldn't suit me. I wouldn't have that kind of intensity to do that, but I always thought that would be like one of my go-to characters if I were to like work in WWE creative, that they'd be like, give us some gimmicks, and I'd be like, you don't do the ticking time bomb thing. It makes so much sense, What would, regardless, what would be his babyface character similar to his real personality, or a complete opposite in this? Do you mean my babyface character? I don't know what that would be. I don't see myself as a babyface. It would be obnoxious probably to be around babyface me. I don't know. My wife says I'm a Cancer. Like, like I truly fit with that. I don't really buy in the horoscope thing, but there you go. What do you think about WWE LFG? Have you seen the first full episode? Did anyone or anything stick out to you? I got to look at the list of the people that were in LFG. I've been watching it. WWE LFG cast. So, all right, where's the group of people that I can actually see their profiles? I don't like the layout on that website. I'll just go with Wikipedia. So you've got Anthony Luke, Bailey Humphrey, BJ Ray, Chris Island, Danny Ray. Okay, yeah, this is the list. So Anthony Luke, I don't quite see it yet. He kind of feels like generic, I kind of want to be The Rock type of guy, and we've seen a lot of those, but he doesn't have the personality for it yet for me. But I can see him being through this system, and like, I see some potential there. Bailey Humphrey, she hasn't really wrestled much on that, but she's big, and that's a completely unique look. So if she's able to work out some kind of character and be a good version of like the monster bodyguard type, I think that she could actually pull that off. BJ Ray, I hated this kid and the things that I had seen him just a few times, and I thought he was completely obnoxious and like the absolute reality version of what the Miz was always bullied for. But on the show, I'm like, all right, if he's playing it up, he's great. If he really is this type of a kid, I'd want to kick his ass, so I'm watching out for him. Chris Island, not seeing much there, to be honest. He just seems like another guy that can wrestle, but no real personality. Danny Ray, I don't even remember who she is. if I remember correctly, she is the one that I was the least impressed with. Let me... Danny Ray. Oh, no, that's Danny Sikelski. Okay, so no, Danny Sikelski, she gives me the vibe of the next Katana Chance kind of type. Drake Moreau, I don't remember which one he was. Drake Moreau. Oh, he's the guy that does the little jig. Too early for him. Too early to talk about Elijah Holyfield. Jasper Troy seems kind of interesting. Leigh Laurel, haven't seen enough from her yet. Penina Twalipa, she's got some potential. I think she could be fun. Shiloh Hill is probably the most, like the highest up overall for me. He has like kind of the most going on. Apparently he's really into like the dark web and stuff. He's got a TikTok that I've come across a bunch of different times, and I never realized that it was him until eventually I was just like, wait a minute, why does it say Shiloh Hill WWE? And I'm like, oh shit, it's that guy. Serena Linton, that was the girl that I was thinking of. She's the one that I don't have any real solid impression. I hope I'm proven wrong here, but I don't think she's going to be around long. Tatiana Dumas, haven't seen enough from her. Troy Yerode, haven't seen enough of him, but he doesn't seem to have a personality. Xena Sterling, I don't think is going to work out when it comes to like, she wants to play this whole ditzy character. I don't think she pulls it off all that well. So I hope she finds a different character, and I think I'll like that better. And then Tyra May Steele, she's got a lot of potential for sure. So I like the show a lot better than Evolve. And when it comes to watching either one of those, I skip through Evolve as fast as I can, and I actually watch LFG. It still seems a little bit weird, this coaching system thing. The Mickey situation, yeah, I think that sucks. Like, I don't think Michelle McCool is going to be a better, what do they call him, coach on that show for this next season. I feel like she's going to be less interesting to watch. But I'll admit to, Mickey hasn't really been the most interesting coach either. It's pretty much just been Bully Ray. Bubba Ray and his whole thing with BJ is way more interesting. And like the way that he interacts with people is way more interesting to me than anybody else. And then probably Booker, and then probably Taker. For the most part, swapping a lot of these out, I don't think matters all that much. I'd like to see actually like maybe replace Taker with Sean Waltman. I'd be curious to see what happens there. Maybe replace Booker with somebody like replace Booker with Mick Foley. That would be a lot of fun, I think. Yeah, I'd be down for that. So I am going to check out this episode of LFG. I didn't check that out yet because of the pay-per-view. I'm going to do that after doing all this. And I hope you guys had fun with this post-show. It's I figured I'd hang around a little bit longer than the pay-per-view and just kind of chat it up with everybody. Feeling positive about the potential to continue to do this podcast going forward. So, yeah, okay. I don't know. So share your support in all the ways that you can. The link tree, of course, is up at amangotree.com and anthonymango.com. It'll redirect you to the same thing. Go ahead and click on the like button or the subscribe button or whatever it is. Follow all those different accounts that you can see there. Stay tuned for the next episode of the podcast, which I believe we're probably going to do either Tuesday or no, I can't do it Tuesday. Wednesday or Thursday, which will be the we're either going to do the dark cast first, or we're going to do this Hall of Lame idea. Hall of Lame is when we take 3 categories of some like anti Hall of Fame award for like the worst of something. So we haven't really talked about when we're going to do that yet, but that's probably going to be the next time you hear from us. And then Darkcast, if you're on the Darkcast tier, will be the one more match for all the people in the Hall of Fame. Or we'll swap it around. I don't know if we're going to do one as the Darkcast or the other one. We'll see. That's going to be next, though. Another round of the hot tags after that. And then before you know it, we're already in like WrestleMania. So that's insane. So show your support. Thank you for listening. Thank you for checking this out. And I will see you next time. This has been another Smark Out moment. And I'm being counted out.